What's going on, y'all? How's everybody been doing? So we're back again. We left off in Nashville. If you missed the last video, be sure to check that out. And the plan for tonight is I'm gonna go from Nashville down to Atlanta, of course, which is usually the case when I leave out of Nashville. I almost always go to either our break bulk or Atlanta. That's pretty much like the norm. So we got 20,000 on the lead with 18.5 on the rear. Not too bad going down Mount Eagle tonight. And hopefully when I get to Atlanta, they send me somewhere decent. Let's see. All right, so it looks like they're still loading. So we'll just hang out for a minute. Let's see. This one's already done. You know what? Hang on, y'all. Give me just 1 second. All right, y'all. I'm back. Sorry about that. So I'm still currently on the way to Atlanta. They ended up switching one of those trailers, but I'm still going to the same destination, just taking a different trailer. So as y'all can probably see, I don't know how well y'all can see this, but I am climbing Mount Eagle. And you know what's crazy is in all the years that I've been driving, I've never gone through this in the daytime, so I have no clue what Mount Eagle looks like in the daytime. Because between working at Southeast and running over the road, I've only come through this at night. And as y'all can see, I got my 4-ways on, and I do have a decent amount of weight. So anytime I'm going like below 40, I put on the 4-ways. That way I can let people know behind me. One thing I do wish is that that they make these trucks a little more powerful, because these trucks are terrible, like especially when it comes to climbing hills and mountains. These trucks are terrible. Nothing like the Kenworths. Because I've gone through Mount Eagle in a KW and it pulls pretty decent. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm flying up the mountain or the hill, but it definitely pulls better. I think what I'm gonna do too is film going down Mount Eagle. You know, to me this is nothing, you know. I forget off the top of my head what percentage the grade is, but it's really not that bad. I don't know why some people make a bigger deal out of this mountain. Like, it's really, it ain't nothing, you know, compared to some of the mountains I've gone down out west, like in California, Arizona, you know, out on the west. You know, this ain't nothing compared to some of those mountains out there. I will say though, even though this mountain's not that bad, you know, never take it for granted, you know, never get too comfortable. And this is, you know, for the new people, never get, you know, comfortable and complacent when it comes down going down these mountains. And if I remember correctly, I think there's what, 2 or 3 runaway ramps on Mount Eagle, and you don't want to be one of those people going down it. But you know, in the event that you lose your brakes, you know, put that pride aside and, you know, use that ramp. You know, I don't know if y'all know, but recently one of those mountains in Colorado, I forget what it's called, but it's on the 160. You know, that 23-year-old driver, you know, unfortunately lost his life, you know, going down that mountain. I've gone down it, and you know, to me it's not that bad, but you gotta respect it. You know, you gotta know what you're doing, you know, when you're going up and down these mountains. You know, you gotta make sure, you know, you're in the right gear. You know, you gotta make sure, you know, that you're not riding your brakes, you know. Now, working at Southeast, I don't really deal with mountains. The only mountains I really go down is, of course, Mount Eagle, Fancy Gap. I'm trying to think, there's another one, but I can't think of the name. But main thing is, you know, just take your time, you know. You're gonna see other drivers, you know, flying, and I do mean flying down these mountains, you know. And hey, if that's what they want to do, hey, more power to them. Now, I will say, you know, you do have drivers that go up and down the same mountains, you know, every day, probably twice a night, twice a day, whatever, and they're comfortable, you know. Me personally, you know, I've gone up and down this mountain enough. I've gone down Fancy Gap enough times where I'm comfortable, but I'm still gonna always be cautious, you know, going down it. Because when you get too comfortable, this guy got no lights on. Wow. When you get too comfortable, that's when things happen, you know. But I'm gonna throw some time lapse on, and I'm gonna check back in when I get to that the brake check area. All right, I didn't realize how close I was to the brake check area, but this is it. So of course it is mandatory that you stop. Now this particular one here, you know, there are drivers that blow past it. I would be lying if I said I've never done it. I haven't done it at this time, but I've done it, you know, in the past. And what happens is sometimes they'll have a trooper waiting right past the brake check area, and he'll pull people over. Fortunately, I've never been pulled over before, but do it at your own risk. But of course, I would recommend, if it says pull in, just pull in. It's just that simple. It takes just a few seconds off. So we got 6% grade for 4 miles. And like I said before, you know, just make sure, you know, you take your time. Don't ride your brake. Utilize your engine brake, your Jake brake. You know, just take your time. I don't know about y'all, but I've personally, not on this mountain, but I've seen trucks go down that runaway ramp, and it's a scary sight to see, you know. And being though that I'm every bit of 41,000, you know, it's gonna push me down. Even with the engine brake, it's still gonna, you know, push you down. But slow and steady. So we got our first runaway ramp, half a mile, and like I've said before, you do not want to be the person on it, you know. And that's the whole purpose, you know, of that brake check area. You know, check your brakes, let your brakes cool off, you know. And like I said, this mountain is not that bad. I've been down worse. You know, you got mountains out there in Oregon, Cabbage Patch. You know, I've gone down Donners. You know, there's one in West Virginia. I want to say it's on I-64 going east, Sandstone. Got another runaway ramp, 3/4 of a mile. And like I said, I got the Jakes all the way on, and even still, it's still pulling me down, you know. And, you know, when it comes to going down these mountains, you know, there's a trick that my trainer taught me, you know, when I first got into trucking, you know. He taught me, you know, just hold the brake pedal for 3 seconds, let off. You know, hold it for 3 seconds, let off. And to this day, you know, I still use that same practice, you know. I don't know about y'all, but one thing I do hate is, you know, when four-wheelers are constantly like slowing down in front of you. Fortunately not this time, but I know the last time I came down this, and all these four-wheelers, they kept riding their brakes, and it's like, y'all don't have any weight, you're only 4,000 pounds, and why are y'all riding y'all brakes down this mountain? Like, I'm confused. Meanwhile, I'm loaded down heavy, you know. Like I said, one day I'll be able to see what this, like I said earlier, you know, I've never seen Mount Eagle in the daytime. What you see is the only thing I've ever seen coming down this. You know what? Well, that's the end of Mount Eagle, y'all. That's it. just when I thought I had the potential of having a decent night, my night is gonna get cut short because they are sending me empty to our North Atlanta terminal for 40 miles, and I'll be ending there. Not even 300 miles for the entire night. Their reasoning for that is, according to Central, they are saying they are short 5 drivers in North Atlanta, so I'm needed there for the outbound. So essentially, I'm getting screwed over because they're short-staffed on drivers for who knows why, but what I'm probably gonna do is, and they already said I could do this, is I can shuttle back and forth, you know, between the Atlanta terminals. If North Atlanta has some freight, I could, you know, shuttle over to ATV. And best case scenario, if I can get at least maybe 2 round trips, you know, I can still, you know, come out with a decent night, you know. But as I've said in other videos, you know, sometimes you're gonna have good mild nights, and then there's gonna be nights like this where, you know, they just don't really have nothing. The thing that really messes me up is, if in fact they don't have anything in North Atlanta, that's gonna throw my sleep off. So I'm gonna have to force myself, you know, to try to stay up, because it's only 2:45 and I'll get to North Atlanta just before 3:30. And then mind you, the closeout for North Atlanta is around 9:30 p.m. and I highly doubt they'll let me turn my 10 out of North Atlanta, especially not on a Friday, so. But you know what, y'all, we're gonna be optimistic. Hopefully they'll have something that I can do when I get to North Atlanta, and I can, you know, get a few shuttles. But it is what it is. All right, so we made it to North Atlanta, just dropped my set, and it worked out. I'm gonna head over to ATB, but I still have to come back, so. And the funny thing is, for one, I got a 53, which most of y'all know is rare that we pull 53, especially in line haul. But this load here is like a slap in the face. I'm gonna tell you why in just a second. This load is an Orlando load, Orlando proper. So of course in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't they leave it here and let me or the other Orlando guy that's coming up here run it back down? But that's out of my pay grade, and I'm just a driver, so there's no telling why they did this or what they have planned for this load. But this could have been ideal, you know. This load is heavy too, 35,000 pounds. All right. So between me and the other Orlando driver that's coming up here, hopefully one of us can get a straight shot home tonight. But when I come to North Atlanta on a Friday, sometimes I get a straight shot, but sometimes they send me to Val out of here. Sometimes they send me to Albany. But like I said, best case scenario, I can get a straight shot. But all right, that's just the update. So we're gonna shoot on over to the break bulk, and I will catch up with y'all when I get over there. So we're back, currently in West Atlanta. Well, let's backtrack. I don't know if I said it in the last clip, but when I got to North Atlanta, I ran over to ATB and then back to North Atlanta just to get, you know, some extra miles on the back end. So when I get to the bunkhouse, you know, shower, you know, do my little routine, and as soon as my head hits the pillow, my terminal manager calls me. It was like, hey, we need you to go take a random drug test. So of course in my mind, I'm like, I wish you would have called me a few minutes sooner before, you know, I got into bed or whatever. But oh, it's about to rain. I feel them raindrops. So I ended up running over to Duluth, took my little random, went to sleep for a little bit. My dad ended up, you know, picking me up, spent some time at his house. So left out of North Atlanta, like I just said. And currently, I'll be taking this set here down to Orlando, where we're gonna end off the week. Got 17,000 on the lead with 6,000 on the rear. Not too bad. So from here to there, 451 miles, and I'm kind of stalling a little bit, you know, taking my time. That way I can let my 30 minutes kick in, even though I don't need a break. But since I had to go from North Atlanta to West Atlanta, which is 49 miles, caught a little bit of traffic, so I'm just trying to burn some time. That way I won't have to take a 30 on my way, because like I said, I can make it from West Side to Orlando. I could do that in about 6 hours, 15 minutes. And I don't plan to stop until I get to Orlando. So that's the game plan. The hostlers actually beat me to it. I was gonna hook it myself, but by the time I got my dolly and stuff, he was already doing it. So of course, y'all know me, I'm still gonna, of course, check behind him, check everything. Because at least if something screws up down the road, I want to be the reason, you know. Like I said, I don't trust these hustlers. As I always say, CYA. Alrighty. Looks like we're good to go. You know what's crazy though? Is I come to West Atlanta more now than when I actually ran out of West Atlanta. Between West Atlanta and North Atlanta, I'm like always up here. You know, that's how we looking. So we're gonna hit this road and I will check back in with you guys. If anything happens, I'll check in. Alrighty, just like that, we have made it back home to Orlando. And this will conclude the week, y'all. So right about here is where I'm gonna end it off. Appreciate all y'all that tuned in. As I always tell y'all, thank you to all my day one subscribers. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I appreciate y'all. And as I always tell y'all, y'all take it easy and y'all stay safe.